Couture, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room.
Today, Monday, the 31st of August, 2020. This is it. It's the end of the month. And no sooner had we said August than we said September.
And no sooner will we be thinking of September, we'll be thinking of December.
Can you imagine?
Yes.
Just like that. And 2020 will be gone.
Yep.
Many are waiting for this one to happen.
And 2021 will not be beckoning. It will be with us.
Right here.
As they say in Kiswahili, punde will not even have had time to become punde.
Nduoko.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Fantastic.
Asante sana.
Did you have a good weekend?
Yes.
Good.
Did you?
I did.
What did you have?
For the weekend? I had some rest.
Yeah.
It's a good diet, that.
Isn't it?
That's lovely.
I got to swim, so I was happy.
Kabisa.
So you're a swimmer.
I am.
That is now not rest. That's therapy.
It was necessary.
It's therapy.
So that's what swimming does.
What? What?
It calms you down.
It does. Actually, for me, once you get into the rhythm.
You don't sound like you're in the rhythm.
I
Sound
was,
like
not
the-
anymore. If
Like
I was,
the rhythm was on Saturday or something.
yeah, if I could be there now. But you know, it's good stuff. Try it sometime.
City is Monday. You know, that day that you love.
You know, Monday is a good
Waking
day.
up to a Monday.
You wake up to a Monday, you think of all the problems that you've left the week, before, and which in reality you actually haven't left. But this mental game that we play with ourselves about moving forward, it's a wonderful thing. Mondays are good days, man. Mondays are good days. You know why?
It's a new beginning.
It is a new beginning. And more than anything else, there are very few things that I can find need for gratitude beyond that. Just, it's a new day and I'm there. It's a good thing.
Good day to be alive every day, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It is. The fact that I can witness and I'm part of this new day, man, things can't get better than that.
Never take some of these things for granted.
Yes. Because
Never.
within that, then everything else that I may think is important can now be fitted in.
Now come in.
Yes, exactly. But it has to start with that.
Welcome to the show. Today we'll be discussing a number of things. Of course, we can see what's happening from what we saw on Friday in the Senate during the proceedings for the investigation into COVID-19 funds. A lot happened. CS Mutahika, PS Mochache, and who else? Well, we'll be talking about that. Then also we will be seeking the opinion of the Kenya Medical Association on this particular matter because they have an issue that they want to raise. They have got a bone to pick with the government and the handling of COVID-19, and especially with the kind of revelations that have come out now on how money is alleged to have been misappropriated. We'll also, of course, being a Monday, we'll go into the politics of the day. Kandara MP Alice Wahome will be joining us this morning, and she'll be telling us what she thinks. She's a senior lawyer, remember. We are still commemorating 10 years of the Constitution of Kenya, and we'll be seeking her opinion in terms of the implementation of this Constitution, in terms of what the conversation is now heading towards amending some aspects of this Constitution. Is it the right time? Is it a good thing to do? And also looking at the whole politics of the Constitution vis-a-vis the leadership of the country, vis-a-vis Jubilee Party and all those things. So keep it right here for that. But let's begin where we always begin so we can then have a smooth sailing show. COVID-19 in numbers.
So we're looking at 263 new cases reported from 4,424 samples tested within the last 24 hours. This is what happened yesterday, taking Kenya's total COVID-19 caseload to 34,057. So Nairobi still accounts for the highest numbers, 81, followed by Kiambu, Embu, Mokweni, Nakuru, and Nyeri counties. So COVID-19, as we had seen a few weeks ago, present in all counties in the country. Case fatality still stands at 1.6%, the average rate recorded this month. And it's had a decline from 1.9% reported in July and 2.5% recorded in June. Last week was to be the week where we would see more reagents into the country, then that would allow for more testing to be done. That has still not happened. So it'd be interesting to see how this all.
They didn't come?
No, not yet. They're
Why?
still
What
on the way.
happened?
No, it hasn't been reported that they've arrived. They could have arrived, and maybe they're still tabulating and
They're
everything.
being processed. Stock taking.
Sure.
Ensure that what left is what arrived.
Yes. So let's wait and see. Maybe this week they will come, right? Okay. 25,384,436 cases around the world. And now seeing that news or reports coming out of the World Health Organization are that the spread of the virus could be now more virulent in children. And this vis-a-vis cases for children to go back to school, especially in the United States and Europe, where the new semester is beginning across board, right? And whereby some schools are saying only children above the age of 13 should be wearing masks. Children below the age of 13, then it's not necessary. New reporting coming out saying that the spread of the virus is like the common cold. So they need to be very careful then in terms of transmission between children, because it could be more easily spread in this age range. So that discussion continues. 850,000 deaths around the world, 17,700,000 having recovered. The United States, well over 6 million cases, with 6,173,236 cases. In India continue to rise. We've seen an additional 300,000 cases since Friday in India, and an additional 2,500 deaths. Russia inching closely to 1 million cases. South Africa reducing on their cases, having now been overtaken by Peru. South Africa with 625,056 cases and 14,028 deaths. Deaths still continue to rise in Mexico, 4,129 cases with 339 deaths recorded in the last 24 hours. Okay, so this is what we continue to see. And China still recording a few cases here and there, and still at the same time when they're starting to, getting more and more in the business of opening up and allowing more and more things to take place, like sporting activities and restaurants opening and things like this. Okay. Yeah, so Australia now recording higher numbers per day, 76 cases in the last 24 hours, and the eyebrows are raised over this as well. South Korea, again, recording more cases, and this is something that was in the news last week, as we saw that one of the churches where all of this began now having issues with not being able to open, but now seeing whereby South Korea had dropped to below 10 cases per day. They're recording upwards of 200 cases every day now, and unfortunately now with one more death. This is what we see in some cases where they thought we'd be able to shut it down. It's mushrooming once again.
Yet again, in the world of research, what is of interest is that all manner of discussions are now taking place. The discussion around plasma being used for treatment, it's heated up. And the key issue that is being discussed is that the findings of that particular study that the FDA approved to be used for emergency purposes did not have what you call randomization. It didn't have that option that allows people to determine whether this thing is perchance, in all honesty, that's what random is all about, or whether it is determined. The numbers were good, but it isn't enough for it to be considered right across the board. It is considered as something that shows signs of positive improvement on the health of people who've used it, but there's still too many questions being asked. Now, there's been the discussion about surfaces being transmission agents for. Studies done in Japan have shown that there is nothing that can conclusively prove that. Doesn't mean it doesn't, but there's nothing that can conclusively prove that.
But they can show and say, all right,
well, the surfaces, yes.
the virus remained alive on this particular surface for this period of time. Whereas it was suggested before, there is no scientific proof or evidence to point to.
However, the aerosol aspect of transmission, that there's ample proof for that. But now, what is also of significance is this. When we have a situation such as the one we have there will be discussions upon discussions, even as people keep bringing up what they think could be possible solutions. But the debate is now tending towards thinking that the vaccine may not necessarily be the answer that we were looking for. Not necessarily. And why? It's because of the discussion of reinfection. Because if you get a vaccine, do we know that the vaccine will prevent you from being reinfected? So it opens up the discussion yet to a totally different level. But what has been agreed on and has not changed is the ABC of prevention. That has not been disagreed on. The disagreement came in with the discussion of face masks. And there are many countries, specifically in the West, where they said face masks, not necessary. Now, they have engaged reverse gear, full throttle. Face masks are mandatory, and even fines are being levied on people who don't wear them. Yes. The washing of hands, nobody questions. Sanitizing, nobody questions.
Distance,
nobody questions. So, if one is talking about, Eric has actually just hit the proverbial nail on the head. Yes, yet. Russia had come up with a solution, they said, that has been questioned and then some. But this is what you expect with research findings. There'll be people who will have alternative views. Now, of interest, these are experts. So you will find an expert has this view which they support, another one has, and they're all experts. So we'll wait for this to die down, because at some point they'll find an even keel. They'll come to a point where they can all agree. Now that's where now what you call lasting solutions. But there's something about this virus. It's like this virus listens to us.
Why? What has it done now?
It's like it's telling us, oh, you think you figured me out? Okay.
Wait.
Keep thinking.
I'll show you.
Keep thinking.
as I keep moving.
Something interesting is also happening in Europe. In Germany, in Berlin and in London, hundreds of thousands are protesting in the streets. And, well, they are complaining against the government's now reintroduction of these measures and saying, come on, we need to be left alone to learn to deal with this thing and to live our lives with this thing. Okay, and saying that the governments are exaggerating this. Of course, it's not getting a lot of media coverage, because of whatever reason. And when it gets coverage, I'm looking at the kind of headlines that we're seeing. The Guardian says, coronavirus skeptics, conspiracy theorists and anti-vaxxers protest in London. Anti-lockdown protesters are gathering in London, dismissing coronavirus pandemic as a hoax. You see, this is how they are being branded. Thousands of COVID deniers protest in Berlin and London. This is on CNN. According to the Chinese media, CGTN says mass protests in Berlin and London against COVID-19 restrictions. See the difference in language? Chinese media says these people are complaining against the restrictions.
Which is actually what they're doing.
The Western media is saying these are anti-vaxxers, they are calling it a hoax.
Naysayers.
Skeptics. And they're not even
malcontents.
Yes. They are not getting much coverage. If it was the other way around, it'd be having, direct 24-hour rolling news coverage on all the media. But now, just a mention.
You see, the question you then have to ask yourself, who is controlling that narrative?
Yeah.
Because there's a narrative that some people seem determined must be pushed. It's that same attitude that led to the spike and those really horrendous numbers that we saw in certain parts of the Western world. The reality is here with you, and yet you're determined that you must push a certain narrative. And if you look at it, and you look at what's happening in the world of commerce, then you can see a correlation. There seems to be a ganging up against China. There's this little app called Tick and Talk. It's actually called TikTok.
Yes.
It's actually raised quite a furor. It's a discussion that's going on. No less a person than the president of the U.S. has waded in and has had a lot to say and has put on restrictions. Now, all I'm saying is this. It's like COVID unearthed the might of China, the economic might of China. It was there. It's not that it wasn't there, but suddenly there was this realization of, excuse me, because when production capacities went down because of restrictions, suddenly you realize your dependency on this particular part of the world.
Yep.
And you think, goodness gracious me, how did we not see this coming? So now this is like clawing back and saying, no, we need to have a little more control about some of these things in our own backyard, as opposed to letting someone else determine these things. And I think that it's these perspectives that are now playing out in the field of health. Because the Chinese themselves have come out with what they think would be adequate preventative measures. And their success story cannot be downplayed. It is a success story. Now, the West are grappling with the reality of COVID. And so far, even when they seem to be winning, they seem to be losing at the same time. And
One
yet,
step back,
yes,
2 steps back.
Exactly. So this is not a situation that I think the West is accustomed to being in. So a little narrative to help get back on that even keel that they're accustomed to, I think, is what we are seeing playing out here.
Right here.
It's always see playing out. And also there's some sort of ganging up by the media to control the narrative as well.
Yes.
Anybody who's protesting, they are protesting because they are anti-vaxxers. I mean, they're everything. They're
Anti-progress.
anti-Christ.
Oh, yes. There'll be those. Anti-life.
Anti-life, everything. 17 minutes after 6. Let's take a break, take a look at the weather, and then we start to look at the big headlines in the newspapers today, including today's big proverb. Good morning. This is a Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. The live stream is up at www.spicefm.co.ke, as well as Spice FM KE on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Twitter. Good morning.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise.
You're listening to Spice FM.
A bit of a chilly
The
morning in
weather
some parts
with-
of Nairobi at 11 degrees. Clear skies, however. Partly cloudy conditions throughout this Monday with highs of 26 and lows of 11. It's 13 degrees and partly cloudy in Nakuru. We'll see some thunderstorms later with highs of 23 and lows of 12. Nyeri clear and sunny conditions at 11 this morning, highs of 24 and lows of 11. And in Eldoret, clear skies at 12 degrees, thunderstorms forecasted for the afternoon with highs of 20 and lows of 11. Let's take a look into Kisumu, where it's clear at 16 degrees. It'll go to a high of 27 with a wet afternoon in store, as it will in Kakamega. Thunderstorms are forecasted for later, going to highs of 24 and lows of 14. Okay, and in Mombasa, it's 23 degrees, clear skies, highs of 28 and lows of 23, and a chance of rain not too far from now. 24 degrees and partly cloudy in Malindi at the moment, highs of 28 and lows of 23. Kampala's partly cloudy at 18, and also likely to have thunderstorms with highs of 25 and lows of 17. It's partly cloudy in Dar es Salaam at 21 degrees, got a high of 31 and come to a low of 20. Johannesburg, back to some chilly weather this morning at 4 degrees. It'll go to a high of 18 and lows of 3. And Lagos is clear this morning at 25. Chance of a shower this morning, highs of 29 and lows of 23. It's partly cloudy in Paris at 14 degrees this morning. Go to high of 21 and lows of 10. Thunderstorm warning for yellow today in the French capital. It's 11 degrees in London. Partly cloudy conditions. It'll go to highs of 19 and lows of 10. And finally, for now in New York, still Sunday night at 27. It's clear skies, and they will wake up to partly cloudy conditions with highs of 27 and lows of 17.
Spice FM. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
Mornings done right.
The
94.4 Spice FM.
Today's biggest conversation and today's biggest proverb is...
Well, I was caught between two proverbs, which more or less seem to point in the same direction. And even as you asked about it, I decided on which one to settle on. Today is a Monday morning, so let's start with a little truth. A truthful man will soon find himself expelled from 9 villages. This is a Kenyan proverb.
A truthful man will find himself expelled from 9 villages.
You go to one village,
Speak too much truth,
you
out.
stick out. You go to another one, out. So unlike the cat, which proverbially is supposed to have 9 lives, you will certainly not have 9 dwelling places. You will have 9 places that you've been expelled from.
Why? Because people hate the truth. Truth is uncomfortable.
Well, the question, as you say it, ask yourself, why does truth make people uncomfortable? Or let me ask it differently. What is it that you would be uncomfortable with? Something you're not familiar with, or something you don't want to be familiar with. But when it comes to truth, if something opposes or contradicts a narrative that you are accustomed to, your immediate knee-jerk reaction will not be one of positivity.
You're going to reject it.
You're going to reject it, and you're actually even probably going to fight it. It's that same concept of change. We were talking earlier on about COVID, issues related to COVID, reporting COVID. Change. Change that you are no longer where you thought you were.
Yeah.
Change that this truth that you think was unalienable is actually not what you think it is. Change. So, truth, that's why truth is uncomfortable.
The truth pushes you to change.
And society loves conformity. Society loves people who go by what everybody else is. That's why you've heard people making statements, even though this is very sure. We all know. People believe. Everyone knows. And you're thinking, this consensus, when was it arrived at? Yes? This commonality of perspective, when was it arrived at? But it is a reflection of how we as human beings like to be in a group of people, safety in numbers, so to speak. Without, of course, considering the opposite.
Okay. Okay. Again, the proverb?
A truthful man will soon find himself expelled from 9 villages.
All right. So let's look at the headlines, shall we? There's one man who's being expelled everywhere. Who's that?
Why?
What went wrong? This is the headline in the Standard today. The trouble with Afya House, it's coming round full circle. CS Kagwe took over the health ministry in early March and was described as Kenya's unlikely coronavirus hero. 5 months on, he is grappling with reports of graft in a key agency under his docket, with the president directing immediate investigations. How it went down: he took over the health ministry with gusto, updating the country at every turn, imploring Kenyans and winning their goodwill. Then the suspended KEMSA chief executive officer spilled the beans last week, blaming the CS and the PS for exerting pressure. The standard answer, even as calls for resignation began to filter through yesterday, is that corruption is being politicized. This is what the CS said: I personally brought the price of these items down, and this is why they are fighting me. This is corruption fighting back and a political witch hunt at play. I remain focused.
Okay.
He is not budging.
Why would the CEO of KEMSA point at the principal secretary in the Ministry of Health and the CS?
And the cabinet secretary.
What on earth would drive him to make such a decision? And in no less a place than the August House. Why would he? What reason would he possibly have?
Under oath.
Yes, what reason? Because this one isn't going to go away. It's on record. It's there for posterity. Why would he do this? But if you look carefully, we had a CS who did something even more interesting. He actually threw the issue that was before him. That is, there was a Dr. Mailu who was our CS at some point. Now I think our ambassador in Geneva. He said that actually even him was a bit surprised because, well, yes, it was, I'm not paraphrasing. He was a bit surprised because the person who had preceded him had begun this particular matter and it was not concluded. And when he asked for information, none was forthcoming. He is the CS. So he assumed, assumed, here I'm paraphrasing, that the matter must have come from a higher office. The common thread is that you will not see a public officer taking responsibility for anything. It's always someone else. Always. Always.
I'm liking what I'm seeing here, though. And I really liked when I saw Dr. Jonah Manjari, the CEO of KEMSA, going out there and deciding, you know what, you're not going to drag my name through the mud alone. I'm going to come and I'm going to say what happened. So in very many instances, and I saw PS Susan Mochache is demanding that he explains and he produces proof and evidence. In very many of those instances, the CEO was saying that I received a phone call or I received a message from the PS or from the CS instructing me this and the other. Very few of those instances is he saying, I got written instructions to do this. So you see, it points back to what we've been talking about, what the CS himself, Mutahi Kagwe, has been talking about, the rot that is in Afya House. And if this is finally going to get us to unearth who is this that controls Afya House, then so be it.
It almost sounds as if that he's happy for this kind of expose, because then what it would do is that it gives him an opportunity to then segue into this rot that you talk about. Because he says, it pleases me that you now have an understanding or a deeper understanding of why I'm so resolute about transforming the sector. So it may now give him, like you're saying, an opportunity to say, okay, well, here we are. Since the spotlight is here, let's open it up and really have you look at what's going on here. So he's not brandishing this. He's not saying that this is how can I be accused. He's actually opening it up to Kenyans and saying, now look at what is really going on here. And it felt like I couldn't fight it on my own, but now that the spotlight is on it, let's look at this thing properly.
But you know what is also of interest? Remember what has actually been said. The CEO said he was put under pressure. Right?
Yeah.
Now, I've seen a clip, so I didn't listen to the entire conversation. I haven't been able to listen to the entire conversation. It would be nice to listen to the entire conversation and to ask, okay, you were spoken to. Was this the only time you were spoken to, or is being spoken to something that is normal?
Yeah.
Normal.
Is it a normal thing?
Yes. And then the content that comprised this pressure you speak of, what was it? Because if we were to look at the details of this, you could argue that, yes, they may even have suggested and said, look, there are people whom we know who supply these things well. And as PS, I have a list of pre-qualified suppliers who normally do these things. Would you care to include these people? We are not told whether that was the conversation or, excuse me, we are giving you a list and sending it right now, and these are the people you must give this.
And the amounts.
And the amounts. We don't know this. Or the conversation was, what do you think these things will cost? Do we have the person who can give us this thing at the most reasonable price and yet maintain the quality? We don't know the details of this conversation. Again, it could be a reporting issue. It's been reported as this was what happened in summary. But if you look at the details may be different.
May point something to
yes,
something
it
different.
may point something completely different. Yes. Because I don't see a situation where KEMSA has this very important and pivotal job and they do not talk with the big shots in Afya House. It can't happen.
Of course, they need to consult, but also at the same time, KEMSA, as a procuring agency, has the list of its pre-qualified suppliers.
It does.
KEMSA knows where it will get all these medical supplies and how quickly it can get them.
I believe it does.
So the conversation, if a conversation should come from a PS, would be, are you guys okay? Are you... this is what we need within this time. Can you supply? Can you not? We can supply. Now, the details of who is going to supply, I leave it to you because you're the experts. That's what you do on a daily basis.
You see,
if the conversation starts turning into, okay, so give me the list of who you... No, these ones. No. Include these other ones. Then we start having a problem.
I think that is why I'm in agreement with you when you say the discussion is good, because now we are beginning to actually talk about who says what to whom.
Yep.
The details will be able to resolve this little quandary that we have, because the details exist.
It's very unfortunate that this is going to be a rushed investigation. The Senate is in a rush because it's feeling the pressure from the Kenyans and it wants to give us an answer. And then now the Auditor General or the EACC will be feeling that they're in a rush because they've been given 21 days by the president. So the proper forensic audit of what exactly happened
Won't be done.
will not be done. And for that to happen, you need time. You need to actually trace back and see. So this is the conversation that took place. At this point, this conversation happened. At this point, this action was taken. At this point, this is what happened. So you can trace back and piece together the whole story and know these are the people. These are the actual culprits. These are the people who are culpable. And these ones were just taking orders. And their mistake is that they were not strong enough to.
But in these matters, Eric, there is this little and very subtle and yet very, very pervasive perspective, and that is the court of public opinion.
Yep.
The court of public opinion takes it and makes the issue simpler. What have we seen happening in this ministry before? Start there.
Yeah.
Okay? If we want to expand our vision, let us look at other ministries and see what has happened and where the rot has set in, and it's actually at the head. So you're guilty before you even move
Before
a
you
step
move.
forward.
Yes.
Before you move.
Yes.
If you take it to KEMSA, same story. What is the history of this institution? What is the length of time we've seen the CEOs lasting in this job? Have we seen this sort of thing before? And the answer will be a resounding yes. So now, once the resounding yes, the guilty or not guilty, it's easy to arrive at.
Yep. In public opinion.
Yes.
And the real people who run these cartels, they love that. Because they know that you're going to look at...
People are sidetracked.
You're going to look at who you see, the public image, and this is the CS, the CEO. You'll never look at us.
And especially remember, we had a similar case where a CS and the principal secretary were sent home. Case still pending. So this one, it is easier to believe, yet another one. Okay?
Yeah.
And yet, the truth is the details haven't come in yet, have they?
No.
We're still at that stage where this is being said and the other is being said and this is being said. But, there could have been a third narrative and a clear narrative. If procedure had been followed, all that would have been done was said, actually, we do follow procedure in this ministry and this is what we do.
Yeah.
And then you then change the debate to, okay, is this document false? Is it true? Is this what has happened? It's a foundation and a basis on which now to have the conversation moving forward. I haven't heard anything of that sort. Maybe you have.
No, I haven't either. 27 minutes to 7. Let's take a look at what's happening on the road this Monday morning. And then we come back and look at other headlines this morning. Good morning. It's the Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Traffic.
Okay, well, starting Monday morning in fine form. Unfortunately, this morning, an accident past Sultan Hamoud near Mali. No deaths, thank goodness for that. But that's Mombasa Road and heading into the city this morning. Unfortunately, that has already happened. Let's look at what other parts of the city look like. It's clear coming off Thika Road today, inbound to the CBD. Not too much of an issue right now. Not too much traffic. We're likely to see a lot more inbound traffic as the minutes tick by. All right, coming off Mombasa Road, right around the SGR, moving towards Cabanas. It's going to build up a little bit more as we get towards 7 o'clock. It'll get to bumper situation. Of that, I can assure you. Everywhere else looks good, though. Bagavi Way, the trusses for the footpath or the footbridge will put up between Saturday and Sunday. That should be done. So we shouldn't see too much traffic on that road today, heading towards Gong Road and then from the City Mortuary roundabout headed towards Valley Road or then down towards Ngong Road should be fine getting into the city. Let's look at what it looks like in about half hour or so, and then we'll be able to judge how long you have to sit in this one, guys. All right? Okay, Spice FM KE. That's how you can reach us on Twitter. Let us know if you get stuck somewhere and we can see how we can keep it moving this Monday morning.
Spice FM, Malindi. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings
All right,
done
24
right.
minutes to 7. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. Looking at other headlines this morning, City.
Well, let's tone down the tempo of the conversation and look at the University of Nairobi. It is being reported in the Star that the University of Nairobi Vice Chancellor, Professor Stephen Kiama, has outlined a 5-point agenda to turn around the institution and solidify its position as an academic giant. This is when he was virtually addressing the university fraternity. All right, there are details, but this is what you would expect when a new leader comes in. You look at what you probably believe requires change, and you forge ahead and begin the process. Now, why I'm not even reading what he actually said in details is this. This is a story that is going to unfold because there'll be responses to it, there'll be reaction to it, and the reaction will be to the details. That is when I'll look into it. Yes.
Ah. Okay.
Eh?
And what do you have in do?
Okay, so cash transfers to go as COVID goodies dry up. This is what is being reported on front page of The Nation today. The clock is ticking on the COVID-19 relief introduced in March to cushion Kenyans from the economic effects of the pandemic. The government has started scaling down on some of those relief. The first to be knocked off is the cash transfer program for poor households, which will end 6 months of social safeguards to the vulnerable. Under the scheme, the government sends out about 1.3 billion shillings every month. The payments will now be terminated in the first week of October, according to a plan revealed by the Labour and Social Protection Cabinet Ministry, Simon Chelugui, in Parliament last week. Since May, 341,958 households have received the weekly 1,000 shilling stipend to cushion them from the dire economic conditions caused by the pandemic. He told legislators that the initial 10 billion allotted for the cash transfer scheme was dispersed by the Interior Ministry via M-Pesa. So come October, it's not going to happen anymore. It's done. It's finished. So
Okay.
I don't know if this is lying on the assumption that the economy is going to pick up more people can go out and get back to their daily bread activities.
But this we were told by both CSs for interior and for housing,
That it was
PSs
going to
rather.
happen.
That,
Yeah.
I mean, it was the resources were up to a certain point, and then maybe another conversation can be had. Maybe you decide, all right, no, we don't have any more money. We need to put 2 billion shillings to a referendum, or we need to put 2 billion shillings into supporting these families for another month. So this is what now the government will have to look at. What's more important? For posterity, for
Keep
the
feeding
future,
people
for the future of
or
the country.
keep people alive? Or,
Keep feeding people, or look at how to change laws so that these people can.
vote you back in.
Yeah.
Okay.
6 in 10 youths are mentally ill, according to a study, and this is in the counties of Kisumu, Kakamega, Bungoma, and Vihiga, where the cases of poor mental health are on the rise. A new study shows that the number of adolescents seeking mental health services has doubled over the past 2 years. This study was conducted by some organization called Access to Medicine and Tinada Youth Organization, with support from the Open Society Initiative for Eastern Africa. So it says some of the mental illnesses have been linked to abnormal functioning of the nerve cell circuits that connect particular brain regions, ultimately leading to depression. Other causes include drug abuse, teen pregnancy, trauma, distress and depression, gender-based violence, especially in Bungoma, Vihiga, and Kakamega counties. This is something, I mean, when you talk about 6 in 10,
do they give details of the sample size, the number of people who were...
not this particular story. Probably if you look at the report, then you'll be able to tell to see how they conducted the research. The research revealed that mental health concern becomes a mental illness when ongoing signs and symptoms cause frequent stress and affect people's ability to function. It's
Because for this to make sense, they would also need to explain what it is that they actually mean. Because when you talk about mental health,
yep,
mental condition, the thought that comes to a mental reader is madness.
yep.
And then, yes,
Yeah, it's true.
they
Walking around the streets,
yes, exactly,
without
half naked,
clothes.
in shambles, incoherent. So, mental health is not that.
Yep.
Even if you seem to be in a mild state of depression, it will ensure that you're not functioning optimally. Your mental health has been affected. It's important when an opportunity of this sort arises to categorize and say, in this category we see these numbers, in this category we see these numbers, so that you understand. And also, it provides an opportunity to educate people about mental health, what it actually is, not what we think it is, what we've known it to be. Yes.
It says 50 health facilities across the 4 counties were sampled in the study, involving 326 respondents.
Good.
Okay.
And then they are also looking at how much the counties have allocated to address mental illness. Kisumu has allocated 1 million shillings to fight mental illness. Kakamega, Governor Oparanya has allocated 20 million towards mental health care management and mental health policy. Bungoma has pledged to allocate 10 million. Vihiga has not allocated a single cent to mental health.
Repeat that. Kisumu has allocated how much?
1.05 million shillings.
Okay.
A tidy sum.
Tidy sum.
We don't want to compare it to what Oparanya has done with 20 million.
1 million shillings. Okay.
Yeah, the CEC for Health is the county governor. Or did it change? Has he appointed someone else?
Not that I have heard of.
He's
but
still...
No, 1 million
Still,
shillings.
he is.
You know, given the times in which we live right now, if you visit any healthcare facility,
Yeah.
what you're likely to encounter, even as people talk about, narrate to you the problems that they're having, the diseases and the symptoms that they're exhibiting, you'll find that the underlying cause is probably mental illness.
It is.
So that's why I kept asking 1 million and asked you to repeat 1 million.
This conversation, by the way, during these COVID times, the president set up a team
He did.
to look into the mental well-being.
did.
of
Yes, he
people.
did.
Did they come up with a report? Did they report back?
We haven't seen anything
Have
yet.
they said anything?
We haven't seen or heard anything yet about this.
Because I think it needs now to go back to a policy level, the issue of addressing mental health. All those things that you're saying, defining what mental illness is and even categorizing it.
What's
And
prevalent.
What's
yes.
prevalent and how do you detect it? I mean, how do you...
And your capacity for managing it. Allocating money is fine, we understand, but how exactly have you managed it in the past? And how now,
Do you
with this
intend to do it
additional
now?
pressure of COVID, the additional pressure of the outcomes of COVID, do you plan to have it now? To manage it, rather. Yes.
It's something that unless the government from the very top looks at it that way, then it's always going to be mental health is it's a bother to everybody, right? It's a bother to everybody. So as we go into this break at 6:45, let's remind you about this portal by the Kenya Ports Authority, kpa.co.ke/Captain KARGO. What do you want to look at today?
Okay, so we're exporting again, and I thought some questions have popped up in terms of really what happens with this. But so today what we're going to be looking at then is, what you actually do need for export. As you're trying to build your business and things like this, what then does Captain Cargo promise you that you'll be able to find in terms of information? So really whatever anybody's saying to you outside there, whether it's your agent, whether it's the government agencies like KRA or KPA, then you know exactly what should follow. And what is on the portal that Captain Cargo then has to offer should relate directly with what you're being told. And we'll look at some of those specifically for export today.
All right. So you can find all this information on this portal, which is Captain Cargo, www.kpa.co.ke/Captain Cargo, and you'll get all the information that you need about operations at the Kenya Ports Authority. Good morning, 6:45.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
13 minutes to 7. It's a Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. The conversation continues. The Standard has a story here, the big issue this morning, and they're talking about unsafe abortion, the problem nobody wants to talk about, with 500 million abortions done annually across the country. 500,000, sorry. Efforts to develop laws that govern abortion remain futile. And with painful stories of deaths and near-death experiences, we take a look at why abortion remains a taboo topic in Kenya. This is a conversation that many don't want to talk about. According to the Kenya Health Information System, between January and May, the number of adolescent girls aged between 10 and 19 who got pregnant is 152,820. This is between the ages of 10 and 19. All right? And then, very many of these, many will, first of all, seek to have an abortion. They will not tell their parents. They will not go to a proper health facility. So they will seek the backroom abortions. The thing about unsafe abortions, the conversation that, sometimes we have it, sometimes we don't want to have it. When it comes to religious organizations, you don't want to have abortion at all. And what is it doing? What's it doing to our population, especially the younger population, because those are the ones that are most likely going to be seeking the unsafe abortions.
Remember the bill that the senator from Nakuru has been fronting. For the longest time, part of the problem that bill had was that it was referred to as an abortion bill.
Yep.
The issue of abortions in this country, my goodness gracious me, it raises temperatures.
Contention.
Oh, it raises temperatures. Yes. It raises temperatures with the church. It raises temperatures with the Mwananchi. It is considered a major moral issue. If the facts around abortion were perhaps discussed more rationally, as opposed to looking at it as trying to do away with the evidence of sin, perhaps the whole issue would, and the discussions around it would take a different direction. Because the moment you bring it up, all manner of negative things come out of the woodworks.
Well, just the word alone, before you even start having a discussion, it's been very difficult to have any kind of rational or logical discussions around abortion because of the morality that's attached to it, because of the emotion that is attached to it. So it's been difficult previously to do that. And people, unfortunately, everybody comes into the conversation with blinders on, with morals up, and all sorts of things happening at the same time. So I think it is actually time for people, everybody needs to come into the conversation with, eyes open and willing to listen to both sides to hear. I think there are even more than two sides in this conversation.
Yeah,
really.
there are many sides. There are many sides, and I think what I would say the how the government is handling it, the idea that the government has when it comes to dealing with abortion also tells you something. The attitude is the word I'm looking for of what the government has when it comes to dealing with, even have conversations on abortion. The government is playing the political game. It wants to please those that are against abortion. that is religious leaders. It also wants to please those that are pro-abortion. So the government, instead of offering leadership in this particular conversation and saying, let's have a conversation and this is how we can go about it, the government just keeps playing those back and forths.
It's engaged in fence sitting, unfortunately.
Completely. In 2013, the Director of Medical Services withdrew guidelines on claims that they had been misused. And these guidelines were the post-abortion care guidelines, right? That the PSC curriculum and other training packages offered by the Ministry of Health were on how to take care of people post-abortion. They withdrew them. This was followed in February 2014 by suspension of training of health workers on safe abortion care and the use of the drug Medabon for medical abortion. The ministry threatened health providers with dire legal and professional consequences if they participated in any training on abortion. As a result, one of the petitioners, an adolescent known as JMM, died after suffering complications from an unsafe abortion. Right. And then this case was taken over by FIDA. FIDA filed a petition on behalf of JMM claiming that authorities failed to provide her with proper post-abortion care. So this is a whole conversation that keeps having very many sides and people coming up. Of course, unfortunately, it brings in the whole emotional side of things.
For sure.
And people forget to think rationally. Rational conversation thrown out of the window. Another headline.
Okay, so Malindi MP resurfaces and records statement. Aisha Jumwa has been on the run, according to The Nation, since Thursday, with detectives saying that she was not in any of her homes. Immediately after the Director of Public Prosecutions, Nurdin Haji, ordered for the arrest of Malindi MP Aisha Jumwa and several others on a 57 million shilling scandal, detectives started arresting the suspects. Jumwa, however, went underground from Thursday until yesterday when she emerged from her Nyeri home. I am now off to Port Police as directed by the court. I have heard a lot of stories that I have been arrested. I have not been arrested. I am just heading on my own to the station to record my statement, said Ms. Jumwa after she spoke with journalists yesterday. She got to the Port Police Station, recorded her statement and left, unlike her co-accused who were detained at the same police station after they had appeared in court on Thursday. Those arrested included CDF manager Washo Omar Abdallah, together with officers Sophia Said, Bernard Riba, Margaret Faith Kalume, Robert Katana, and government engineer Kennedy Otieno Nyango. The five were presented in court on Friday and charged with conspiracy to steal 19 million shillings meant for the CDF, among other corruption charges. They deny the charges and were released on bail of 10 million, or rather, released on 10 million shillings bond, with a surety of a similar amount or an alternative of 5 million shillings cash bail. She, however, walked into the station yesterday, made her statement, and went home and slept in her bed yesterday. So whatever it is that she did not do on Thursday seemed to have worked in her favor. And the case continues.
Okay. So she's basically just presented herself there and said, all right, here I am.
Yeah, here I am.
You know what is of interest? This isn't it's a headline, but it's falls under the category of news around the world. South Africa. The ANC party actually has an integrity commission.
I like the way you said actually has.
Yes, it actually has. It exists and it functions. And how I know it functions, that it has summoned their president.
Nice.
To appear before this commission. And the matter that they want to discuss with, among other things, is a certain donation of 500,000 rand, which, when first asked about, the president said had been payment for work he has done, and then later said no, it was a donation towards the campaign. Now, what is of interest is that members of the ANC have been removed from their posts as a result of the commission's past recommendations. So, this is a country where you find the check and balance actually is seen to work.
In the party?
Yes.
You don't own the party?
No, you don't. You're a member of the party. Think about it. It is unthinkable for the presidency, any presidency on this continent, for a president to be summoned. It's unthinkable. And yet, it should be the case.
Yep.
Because the responsibilities that a president has is so enormous that check and balance has to be real.
Somebody has to keep them in check. The kind of power that they have.
It has to be real.
The kind of power that, somebody in that position has, it's very normal. Then you apply that power to a human being, it's very normal that they could go off board. So
very easily.
Even more normalized that something needs to be in place to put such in check.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
because
not-
we've seen the result of not putting such
Oh,
things
yes.
in check around the world.
Oh, yes, we have.
From world wars to international and internal conflict because of the lack of such a thing.
You know,
The thing that comes to my mind is, you see, when you see something like this, a strong political party then lends itself to having that argument of having a parliamentary system.
yes,
Because a parliamentary system, it's parties that have a say.
it's parties.
And
yes.
parties will have the check and balance. Because you'll ask yourself, so who is going to be checking this leader of this party or parties in parliament? If parties are strong, then fine, it can work. Because this is what we are seeing. In South Africa, we see the party goes and recalls a president, and so a president falls.
Yes, they do.
Because the party is strong. Now, if we bring this into this country and we push into this direction of, parliamentary system with where the party is the person and the person is the party, who holds the other two?
There's a little detail here, Eric. What you're raising is actually fundamental and should be looked into. But the moment that happens, there'll be a shift in power. What you're discussing is what is our reality now,
Yep.
where there's an all-powerful president. The constraint is the constitution. Now, when parties are strong, all you'll have done is you'll open up the space for that constitution to actually be now enforced more. That's all you've done. And even this person who's the president of the party will know that you may be the person who holds sway. And presidents, if they're members of the party, they hold sway. But you will know that the party has a big say and it is in your interest to actually listen to what you're being told. It's the power of deterrence. It'll be a deterrence. It's something that makes you sit and think.
Yeah. At what point will that party ever even come to existence? The party is a person in this country.
You know, not very long ago, we had party elections in ODM. The one incident that we mentioned sometimes last week that brought to the fore the idea of the men in black, and this is not the movie. Okay? What happened was, there were young people within the party who clearly seemed to have had other ideas other than the party bigwigs. It was clear, because this thing was being televised. One could see it. Now, if I may use a Kenyan terminology, it became shambolic. That election didn't take place. That there were people within the party who were willing to take a stand that didn't seem to rhyme with what the bigwigs had agreed. That is what I go on. It is possible.
It's possible.
It is possible. That's all I'm saying. Right now, Jubilee is having a problem. You could say it's the bigwigs playing their game. But what I think the games bring about is that it is possible. It is possible to even challenge the status quo. Now, that possibility is what gives hope to what we're seeing in South Africa. Yes.
All right, so we're coming to the top of the hour, and this is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. In the next hour, we'll also be live on KTN Home. We'll begin the hour with today's proverb. We'll be live on KTN Home as well as on all our platforms, Nairobi, Mombasa, Kisumu, Nakuru, Eldoret, Nyeri, and Malindi, as well as online. This is www.spicefm.co.ke. We'll be speaking with the Kandara MP Alice Wahome, who will be telling us what she thinks about the Constitution, implementation of the Constitution, the journey towards now the new conversation around a referendum and the conversation surrounding the BBI. And of course, we must ask her, is she still Tanga-Tanga? Is the Tanga-Tanga still alive and kicking? Is Tanga-Tanga still considering itself part of the Jubilee? Or is Jubilee basically left to the Kieleweke wing and Jubilee Asili has now become Tanga-Tanga? Good morning. It's a Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. It's now 7 o'clock.
Spice FM, Nakuru.
Okay, it's building up on
Traffic.
Mombasa Road right around the Gateway Mall. It's going to take you all the way through to Cabanas. And then as you get to the General Motors section of the road, it will not be too bad. But we already see the traffic build up, which we expected at about this time on Monday morning. Okay, so there's been some road carnage, some more on further up Mombasa Road. We know there was an accident earlier this morning around Imali, and this is just past Sultan Hamoud. And it was an accident. Thank goodness nobody perished from this. But we need to be careful, guys, especially when the roads are not so busy. Okay, from Kiambu all the way into the city, not much traffic today. It's building up ever so slightly right around the Pangani underpass as you head then towards the Globe Cinema roundabout, or rather the Globe Cinema overpass. It shouldn't be too bad right now, but we'll take a look at what's going on. In the CBD, for example, it's clogging up some. We're going to see some traffic between Uhuru Highway, between the Nyayo Stadium roundabout all the way towards Westlands on Uhuru Highway, but we should be fine thereafter, guys. Ngong Road looks good as it does on Langata Road. Coming out of Westlands, not too much drama. For now, we'll keep an eye and see what it looks like. Let us know also what you see. Spice FM KE, not to forget, that's how you can reach us on Twitter.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room.
It's coming up to 3 minutes after 7 o'clock. Good morning, and how are you doing on this final day of August 2020? It's a beautiful Monday morning. Welcome to The Situation Room. This is the second hour of the show, broadcasting on Spice FM and now on KTN Home for the next 2 hours. On Spice FM, we are in Nairobi on 94.4, Mombasa 87.9, 102.5 in Kisumu, 96.0 in Nakuru, 96.7 in Eldoret, Nyeri 90.9, and Malindi 97.7. Around the world, we are broadcasting on www.spicefm.co.ke as well as Spice FM KE on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Right? And now, of course, also on KTN Home. Let's begin the hour with today's proverb. City Muga.
Kenyan proverb: a truthful man soon finds himself, should I say themselves if I'm to be gender sensitive, expelled from 9 villages. One village, man. Yes, you are in one village, you speak some truth, out. Go to another village, speak some more truth, out. Of course, the question that I ask, what sort of truth is this person spewing? And don't they realize that this, by the time you get to 3, surely you should understand that the likelihood of being expelled from the 4th one is very high. But he continues until the 9th one.
So just continue. You continue that just like that, and
you continue speaking that truth and you'll continue being expelled.
So it basically tells you that the society hates the truth.
Society loves conformity.
And truth is?
Often it isn't. It is non-conformity.
Really?
Yes, it is. Let's start with something very simple that we've grappled with for a long time. The education of the girl child. We take it as being normal now that girls go to school.
Yep.
For a very long time, there was nothing normal about it. And anyone who took their child, a girl child, to school and got them educated was considered an idiot. At the time, the prevailing logic was that that is not something you do.
Yep.
Time has proven it to be the complete opposite.
True.
By the same token, it was believed that there are certain jobs that only men can do. And that particular thought process traversed literally any discipline, any profession you may think of. And even if you enter the profession, there were certain things they would tell you, no, these ones women cannot do. I remember being told a story by some colleagues of mine that women were discouraged from doing anything other than pediatrics. So it's good, women are good with children, There was a time when you've qualified to be a doctor, you know what you want to do, but you would be advised that, perhaps pediatrics
the best way, the best
for you to actually use that God-given talents. And if you really must traverse it, maybe OBGYN, you could consider it. But that's it.
That's it.
Strenuous things like surgery, what have you, no. So, That is no longer the case. Nobody even questions it. It's not even an issue. It is assumed you qualify, you can do whatever it is you want to do. So, yes.
Oh, my goodness. All right. So let's have this conversation. We are talking about the Constitution, right? We celebrated 10 years of the promulgation of the Constitution of Kenya 2010 on the 27th of August. And we also remember the president the day before that had told us, you know what, let's not get caught up in this whole thing of, being fixated about not changing the Constitution. We need to start thinking, now that we've celebrated 10 years, now that we've had this Constitution for 10 years, let's also start thinking of what next? What's the next phase of the Republic? What do we need to do to look at the reality of what we have seen, reality of what we've lived with now with this Constitution, and start looking at what we can change? We spoke with some leaders, a person like Martha Karua, the party leader of NARC Kenya, and she said, you know what, yes, the president has a right to speak that way, but respectfully, I do not agree that this is a constitutional moment. We still have a lot of implementation of this constitution to do. But then there are those others who have said, yeah, we have gotten to a point where we've implemented the constitution and we have come to reality of things that need to happen. The Nyeri deputy governor, for instance, who told us, look, 10 years we have seen, for instance, as chair of the National Deputy Governors Forum, she was saying the reality of things right now is deputy governors are just sitting in office and they need to be put to use by the people that elect them. So some of these things we can change. We can look at how best do we ensure that devolution works for the people of Kenya.
It is something that will never end, really. Because even with every generation and with the ever-changing times and the situations we find ourselves in, even our own constitution and our laws have to resonate with these changes for them to be fully beneficial to the citizenry. So that we have in the debate is a good thing, and this debate will continue. And it must continue. And it must be allowed to actually proceed to its very logical conclusion. And the logical conclusion is, at this point in time, this is what we believe will work. It's like this debate that we keep reading about in the Senate. Let it continue. Because with the continuation of that debate, we then get to discuss other things that ordinarily we wouldn't discuss if that debate was not there. And we also get to see just how exactly our senators think. And also how they think of us.
I think the conscious is then that it has been time-bound, or that it should be time-bound, and say that within a certain period of time, decisions should be made or minds should be made up. But I think the thing with a conversation like this is that you still have so many opinions joining the circus, throughout all of this. So I think also putting a cap on this discussion, sometimes you say to yourself, is there a time by which you should have a constitution that seems to be working for everybody, and at one time? Or do you say that it has worked for everybody with what we're facing at the current time? The constitution as it is has worked. As those things may change, we'll find that it's necessary to make a further amendment to see that it is suiting the needs of people at that time. So I think that it's also a conversation that needs to continue to be looked at as something that is fluid. In terms of something being set in stone, it then becomes more and more apparent every day that it can't be.
See, had this discussion not gone for as long as it has, the need for there to be a specific time limit wouldn't be happening. They would ask, but why must it be an issue? It's now becoming apparent that it is an issue. Other things will also come up. There are things we actually can't even see now. We can't even understand.
Will keep coming up that will affect this same discussion that we're talking about. Because what is peculiar at this time, in another 5 years, will definitely change.
Yes, it will.
So then you need to now keep it open and say, well, it's possible that we could have this conversation later. But for what we are dealing with right now, are there changes that are needed? Are there things that we need to take into consideration to make it then possible for people to live within the geographical boundaries of this country? Is it necessary to do at this time? Are certain things needed to be taken into consideration to make it happen? Then absolutely yes.
Eric always reminds us that our constitution begins with we, the people of Kenya, the real owners. It's unfortunate that we are absentee landlords. We actually own the constitution, but we've decided that other people should take charge of it. Now, these discussions simply bring to the fore your ownership, your rights, and the things that need to be done, and even how to do it. So, let these discussions continue. Unpleasant as it may be, you may be expelled from 3 villages, but there's 6 more to go.
Let's bring in somebody who understands the Constitution as well. And this is a senior lawyer. She is an MP. She's serving her 2nd term in Parliament. And this is Kandara MP Alice Wahome. Good morning, Mheshimiwa.
Good morning, Eric. How are you, 5-7?
Good morning.
Good
How are
morning.
you guys? How are you doing, guys?
Fine.
We
thank
are
you.
well, thank you,
We're
Mheshimiwa.
well, thank you.
Okay, here I am.
Mheshimiwa, welcome and thank you very much for joining us. Welcome to the Situation
All the way
Room.
from Kandara. Yes, all the way from Kandara.
How is Kandara this morning? Is it raining?
Yes, it's okay. It's just a bit cold like this. Now I'm in Nairobi.
Okay.
Yes.
So let's talk about this Constitution. We have just celebrated 10 years of the Constitution. I keep arguing, though, that from my side, it's just been 7 years of actually living the Constitution. The first 3 years were kindergarten. We really shouldn't. But anyway, let's just say 10 years of the Constitution, Mheshimiwa. And what's your view of it in terms of how far we have gone into the implementation of the Constitution, how we have lived this Constitution so far?
Okay, I will agree with the majority of Kenyans that we have a very progressive constitution. Not just Kenyans, actually. It has been lauded worldwide that we have a very democratic, very progressive constitution. The last, we must recognize it is 10 years, and the baby is now 10 years. And there have been gains because, one, we did take off as a country to implement the constitution. And therefore, what we should be doing is looking at the gains and the losses, or where we are stuck and the reasons why we are stuck. But that's not something that you can force. That is something that you would have to come, it's still progressively. That is something that will have to be generated by Kenyans themselves as the implementation takes place. So we've done, maybe we could say, on a balanced scale, you could say 50-50. We are there, but we would have been able to be in a better place had we the right, correct attitude, had we proper goodwill from the implementers of this constitution, and of course, had Kenyans been more vigilant. So I would call upon Kenyans to be more vigilant if they want to see better results in terms of this constitution.
Mheshimiwa, in your opinion, what would this vigilance entail, apart from just opening your eyes and seeing it?
Looking at it, no. The Constitution is a document that was developed and enacted by Kenyans themselves. And it is not possible that we are going to leave to any one single person or any singular group or any individual or any person from out there. It is us. What I'm saying that, what are these things that I'm talking about that have not gone correctly? If you look at the aspirations, from the word go from the first article, the sovereignty, then from sovereignty you come to the republic in chapter 2, then you go to citizenship, then you go to Bill of Rights. The document is robust. The aspirations and expectations of Kenyans was that, one, their lives will change. Of course, the change is not expected to be drastic. But the impact of that change is something by now we should be feeling very, very deeply. For example, one of the key areas where Kenyans were really looking forward is the Bill of Rights. The protection of Kenyans as a people in the Bill of Rights. The second one, if you ask me, is the devolution. You can see the stalemate in the Senate. You can see the demand for more resources. You can see the allocation of revenue is still a big challenge. You can see the corruption and lack of proper accountability and use of those funds, either by the national government or by the county government. You can see how Kenyans are interacting with their lives. Are we better? Are we poorer? I would say it's like we are poorer, which is really not what was expected. The socio-economic rights in the Bill of Rights, the human rights, freedoms of expression, democracy, inclusivity, equality of all persons and equity. These were issues that should be starting to bear properly. But you know what? If you look also at the judiciary, because as a country we expect parliament and the judiciary to be key arms of government in these implementation processes. And then, of course, the independent commission, the police, the National Police Service Commission, Judicial Service Commission, look at the stalemate in the appointment of the judges, in the appointment of the judges by the head of state. Why is there a problem? Come back to Parliament. How is Parliament operating or functioning? Can Kenyans give us a tick at 80%, 100%, or at 10%? You'll find that right now, the independence of Parliament, independence of the judiciary, those key institutions, Eric, have received the greatest onslaught.
But it sounds to me,
from the executive.
When I listen to you and all those things that you've just listed, then I fail to see how you can say we have reached 50% of implementation. Sounds to me like you're only giving us a 2% at best.
You know why I'm saying that? Some of these things, Eric, can happen just like, because we have the framework. The legal statutes are already in place. Majority of the legal statutes are already in place. If you look at the document itself, it is available. We have a constitution that we are supposed to be implementing, not lamenting. By the way, okay, I don't want to sound like I'm lamenting, but we are celebrating 10 years. So a no date is inevitable by Kenyans, even by our neighbors, even by the entire world, to see how Kenya has done. Because if you look at this document, we did not just give it to ourselves. There were partners that walked along with us, Kenyan people, and this is a covenant, Eric. It's, when I listen to some people talking about that we should prepare for a referendum in December, but you know what, we should, and I don't know, and I'm taking this too because also there are us Kenyans who have fallen into that trap or into that narrative or into that decision, The head of state, with the greatest respect, and the Right Honorable Raila Odinga seem to now be sending messages that we should start preparing for receiving of the BBI, and from the BBI, the referendum. Let me just say, Eric, why the fact that we have the document, we should be saying, where have we gone right? Where have we gone wrong? And how can that then be addressed? And we have not gone wrong because of the insufficiency. I want to be clear. Not because of inadequacy of the Constitution, but because of lack of goodwill, because people are not willing to be bound by the Constitution. And I want to remind
lack of goodwill by whom exactly?
And if I may ask on top of that, when you say people are not willing to be bound by what the Constitution says, whom exactly are we speaking of?
I need to expound on that and say the implementers of this Constitution, top on the list is the executive. Followed very closely there is Parliament. And then, of course, we come to judiciary. And again, then Kenyans, because Kenyans must continuously call the executive, Parliament, and judiciary to account. Am I maybe getting clearer?
Yep.
Yes.
So the executive is a very big roadblock or a big avenue to achieving most of these things. And, if I just want to refer to a case in point, two cases in point. We have a problem in the appointment of the judiciary. When you look through the articles that lead to the appointment, the scrutiny, the vetting, the interviewing, the processing, the Constitution gives a simple but very honorable role to the head of state, that of appointing the judiciary judges after the vetting, after the completion of the process by the Judicial Service Commission. If you listen to the arguments around why the appointment has not taken place, is like the president is not finding his role in that process of appointment.
Yeah.
But I think the Attorney General has failed to explain it to head of state, to His Excellency the President, that look, you have two appointees, a man and a woman, in the JSC, so they do receive information or consultation with the President and also the head of the Public Service the Commission. There's a commissioner from there.
Yeah.
And of course, those are, so that is a big failure. And the judiciary is one of the institutions, government arms, that are supposed to be delivering service to the country. So that we are stuck without 40 judges.
This standoff,
Then
however,
the two-thirds gender rule. Parliament right now is staring at a dissolution. Maybe we can come to that later.
yeah.
But this standoff is not good.
Let me
the
just go back to
third-
this standoff before we move to the other points. The standoff on the
Yes.
appointment of judges. One
Yes.
could argue that this is actually now us seeing the implementation of the Constitution in full effect, where we are talking about what's the understanding of the spirit and letter of this Constitution by the various arms of government. So the head of the executive could argue and say, look, in my understanding, that I should have a role to play in terms of the appointment. The head of the judiciary could argue, and we've seen them arguing before the two heads of judiciary so far, saying, no, you don't have a role, you only have a ceremonial role. And the legislative arm of government could also be weighing in on this particular one, on setting the stage and saying, this is what is happening. If there's some sort of lacuna in the understanding of the law, how can we amend this? How can we make it very clear? This could be argued that this is actually the Constitution being implemented. As you remember, in 2005, we had the similar issue of appointment of
Yes.
judges where the president wanted to have a more direct say. This is the same thing that's playing out again.
You see, if you have been given two commissioners as the president, then unless you are saying you want to sit in there, the commissioners that you have are supposed to bring the material and information and consultation from the head of state to be able then to inform the JSC commission that, look, we have a problem. The head of state has and he is entitled to that. The head of state has a problem with so and so getting this appointment because of this. Because, there is a process before you reach to the appointing, which is now which is at that stage a ceremonial role.
Yeah.
And if there were no commissioners representing the president, consulting with the and there is nothing that stops the president through his office consulting even with the judiciary, with the chief justice, because at that level, these are independent institutions mandated by the people of Kenya to guard the space, the democratic space, the political space, the governance space. So, and we cannot forget where we have come from as a country, where there was overbearing by the executive. The presidency had become a problem to Kenyans. That, as you say, the spirit of this constitution was, of course, to ensure that arbitrary decisions, roadside directions, and basically trampling on the rights and the democracy, the governance of a country is not left to one single person or one institution, and that the institutions that were mandated, let us remind ourselves that this constitution is our document, and nobody is above the constitution. That we are supposed to be consulting the constitution. You don't have to say, I don't feel like, or it is not okay. Kenyans wanted it that way. That, look, you will not be the one appointed, because appointment of judges is just one reference that we are making, because it's a critical aspect.
Yeah.
You don't want to be the one influencing judges, because judiciary had become also like a laughing stock. There was a lot of baggage, both from the executive. There were judges specifically given mandates or authority, directed orders from above prior to the making of the constitution. And that's why Kenyans removed that specific role to
True.
a single institution. So I just think that we just need to be loyal, promote, and protect the constitution. constitutional office holders, like the head of state, members of parliament, all these offices, we do swear to pay loyalty, to promote and to protect the constitution. And therefore, Eric, I think that that is one way. Then I will do, and therefore, Kenyans must understand that there is a space, there is a place for the presidency. And even after making the appointment, nothing stops. Because if you have some material that you feel that should stop somebody from occupying a constitutional office, and constitutional offices are key offices, then there is a process of removal still within the constitution and the appointment of in fact, within 14 days, if the president were to receive a petition from any single person, from Kenyans, through the JSC process, then within 14 days, he is required to actually suspend the judge.
Let's take a break, Mheshimiwa. We are speaking with Mheshimiwa Alice Wahome. She is the MP for Kandara constituency. She is a lawyer. She's taking us through her thoughts on the implementation of the Constitution of Kenya 2010 so far. The conversation, as we come out of the break, will be heading towards what now we're hearing, which is, it's about time we started auditing this Constitution and seeing what changes are important, what changes are necessary, and her thoughts on that particular process and how it's taking place. This is a Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation, broadcasting on Spice FM, on www.spicefm.co.ke, on Spice FM KE, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, and also on KTN Home. 27 minutes after 7. Let's take a break. We'll be back shortly.
Spice FM, Nyeri. "24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
It's been an uncertain couple of months, and we are still experiencing the effects of COVID-19 pandemic in our lives. However, we're bouncing back. Our resilience like never before has shown even brighter. And in our adaptation to a new normal, we find a purpose to believe in a better tomorrow. Which is why the Standard Group is bringing you the 47 million reasons. It's all about finding something and someone to be hopeful for during this pandemic. From first responders, mental health, unity to hope. We owe it to ourselves to keep going, getting stronger than ever. 47 million reasons, celebrating you and me. You are our reason. And we have 47 million of them. Brought to you by Radio Maisha, Spice FM, Vibes Radio, KTN Home, and BTV.
All right, sunny conditions in Nairobi at 11. Likely to see that rise up in the temperature, going to a high of 18 today. Partly cloudy conditions in Nyeri today at 10. We'll see at 13 degrees, partly cloudy conditions in Nakuru, and sunny conditions in Eldoret, 12 degrees today. Kisumu will go to a high of 26 today, currently at 18. And the sun is out. 16 degrees in Kakamega, and partly cloudy conditions and a chance of rain later on. Mombasa, 21 degrees will go to a high of 27. Partly cloudy conditions and a chance of a sprinkle here and there. Malindi at 24 degrees and partly cloudy. Going to a high of 29 and a chance of rain later on. Kampala this morning is partly cloudy at 18 degrees. On the chance of rain here later, Dar es Salaam foggy this morning at 21, going to a high of 26. Joburg at 4 degrees is sunny. Those conditions will continue throughout the day, going to a high of 15 and coming to a low of 3. It's partly cloudy in Lagos at 25, will go to a high of 30 and down to a low of 22.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM.
If you're on Jubilee Road this Monday morning, you're in good standing because it's flowing very well today. No traffic whatsoever in both directions, so that is good. Where it is not, though, however, is on Mombasa Road, because right around the Old North Airport Road, and Pipeline, there is traffic and some jam. And it's going to take a while to get out of that. It's Monday morning, so that's what we expect. On the other side of Mombasa Road, heading to the CBD, coming from the SGR all the way to Cabanas, that also has built up significantly, and we're looking at a bumper-to-bumper situation. Right on Gong Road, the boys in blue are doing their job, however choose to interpret that. So traffic has slowed down just a little bit. It'll get you to the City Mortuary roundabout in very, very slow times. Apart from that, on Thika Road, getting into the CBD is not too terrible. As you get to the Globe Cinema overpass, you should be fine. If you chose to go via Forest Road, if you're heading towards Westlands, you're all right as well. It's a Monday morning, bound to see some more traffic in other areas. We'll let you know what that looks like as we go along. Do let us know what you see as well. SpiceFMKE on Twitter.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
And we are back at 28 minutes to 8 o'clock. It's a Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. Spice FM, KTN Home, and on our digital platforms. On the line with us this morning is Alice Wahome. She is the MP for Kandara constituency. In the room, as always, this morning, Eric Latif, Nduoko, and C-Team.
Mheshimiwa, I'd like to shift gears a little bit, if I may. There has been talk, both in the print media, social media, that, well, one, Jubilee is imploding. That's one. Two, there's been talk that the implosion of Jubilee has brought about two factions, and that one of those factions, again it is being said, to which you belong, has decided to actually play the role of the opposition in Kenyan politics. How true is this?
Good. As a member of Jubilee, I would like to be very candid on this subject. And I belong to one of the organs. You could say two organs. The parliamentary group is part of the organs that should manage Jubilee affairs. And then from the Jubilee parliamentary group, there is also the National Convention, where if you really want to consult Kenyans who are Jubilee members, then you can call a convention. Parliamentary group does a lot of consultation because of parliamentary work, and of course in liaison with the executive. There have been issues, and they have come out to the public that the all is not well within the party organs and within the management, purely because you cannot have keen officials responding to each other in the manner that has happened, and secondly, that the organs that are supposed to deal with these issues do not and are not allowed to meet. With the management, of course, you have the Secretary General, who is the head of the Secretariat, and then the reporting, of course, to the National Executive Committee. You have seen certain changes that are said not to have been properly consulted, in terms of making and arriving at those decisions. So it's not okay. Some members are good, some members are said to be bad. Members should be loyal, they shouldn't question. Members should pay homage to certain offices, to certain individuals. I think it is not okay. The management of a party that is running and that has been mandated by the country to govern should be well managed, should be a showcase in terms of how things should be done. Jubilee has failed Kenyans, and I don't know. I don't want to. I think all of us could have had a
role to play.
A role to play. But you see, the leadership of the party is with His Excellency the President as the party leader and his deputy. And you know, when you listen to the conversations around those quotas that are taking away the party, they say there is only one head of state, as if there were possibilities of two heads of state. The Constitution is clear. We elected His Excellency the President, but there are people who want to run away with the party. And actually, and I think the intentions are clear, is to block the Deputy President, who is the party leader, from participating in the governance of the party, and with the sole aim of blocking him from running.
So with the
Take, for example, a vice chair, David Kurade.
So can I ask you before you go to that?